Okay, we're live. All right, good. It is Kim, and I am here. And it always looks like I'm wearing like earrings, but they're my little earbuds. Weird earrings. But I don't wear earrings, so I guess they are my earrings. I have weird skin things, issues, and my ears reject all piercings. So uh, I came to uh, came to the terms long ago that I would not be wearing earrings. I tried for a couple of years when I was a teenager. Of course, when I was like 12, I got my ears pierced. I was so excited. But yeah, they just every time, like silver, gold, every kind. Oh no, try this kind. Oh no, try that kind. All of them ears. My earlobes would get really swollen. So no earrings for me. I don't like clip-ons because I'm a princess and they pinch. Anyway, hey Lincoln, nice to see you guys here. Welcome to the live for Tuesday, the 5th of October. Today I was making some experimental recipes. I don't think they look good yet, so I'm not publishing them yet, but they taste good. So I just have to work on the aesthetics a little bit. I was making pumpkin, little like pumpkin Danish. Very tasty. Hey, Andrea. Oh, same with the earrings. All right. Well, I'm not alone then. Hey, Angie. Finally hit 20 pounds 6 weeks in now. Congratulations, Angie. That's amazing. I'm so glad that you are feeling encouraged and excited, and that's awesome. Tanya says my recipes really look good. I try very hard, but sometimes it takes a few tries before they look good. Honestly, if I were not eventually going to have to take a picture of it for social media, I probably wouldn't care, but social media makes you care. Anyway, hey Dendy, nice to see ya. Hey Lucy. Hey Patty. Hey Carol. Hi Mel. Everyone doing good? I've been having a good week. Well, or not, just depending on how you look at it. So about 3 weeks ago, 2.5 weeks ago, I decided to do a mini cut. What does that mean? It means that I was going to do a short, intense weight loss period. So, if you've been watching me over time, you know that I do periodized body composition, right? So that means that I'm not always trying to lose weight. Sometimes I'm in maintenance. Sometimes I decide to lose a few pounds, right? And so different time periods, I do different things. This was a reaction to my very long, or this was in reaction to my very long stall when I went keto and had to figure out why that was happening and what I could do to fix it and how I could achieve better results, which then led me to doing a reverse diet. And then from the reverse diet, I kind of rebuilt my metabolism, right? So it's not that we break our metabolisms, but we train them. It's like a long marriage. Anyone been married for a long time or had a significant other for a long time? They treat you like you train them to treat you. I mean, I'm not talking about extreme situations. There are outliers. But for the most part, when you're like, God, I hate it when they do that. And then you're like, I have let that happen for so many years. I am partially to blame for that experience that I am having now. Hey, I know you, Indigo. For some reason, I always want to call you Inigo, like Inigo Montoya when I see that, because I don't have my glasses on, but I know who you are. You do great recipes. You've inspired me. Yeah. So anyway, I do periodization. So I periodize what I'm doing when, coming out of my reverse diet and my year. So what happened, those of you that are new, I'll go over this and then I'll get to the questions, which is, so I lost about 60 pounds on keto and then it stalled out. Then I stalled and stalled and stalled and stalled. And then I regained. And then I was like, oh no. And so then I did my reverse diet. I spent about a year working on my metabolic adaptations, kind of rearranging some things so that I was in a better place to lose. I got it, Indigo. I love the color blue. I just, you know, when you see something and it gets in your head wrong and then you're forever, you have a problem. Anyway, but Indigo, I love Indigo. So I got my ship righted, and then I lost another 30 pounds. And I did that doing what I would actually call more low carb than purely keto. It was higher protein, it was more vegetable inclusive. So I was able to sort of rewrite my story. And so from that initial 60, then I lost another 30. And then, but I go through periods where I'm like, okay, right now I'm not trying to lose any body fat. I'm just trying to maintain. I'm going to work on other things. So you always have a goal. Like I have a goal every time I'm in maintenance, whether it's, to increase my gym time, increase my steps, I'm doing other things, not with the intention of losing body fat, with the intention of being healthier, and which ultimately will help aid me being the body weight that I want to be. And so I decided, well, I'm going to go into a period of time over the winter where I'm going to concentrate really hard on gaining some muscle mass. I would like to gain more muscle mass. I'm not low. I went and had an assessment recently, and I was like, I have very low muscle mass. And she was like, on what planet do you she was like, you just don't have as much as you want. But if it's so for my height, I'm like, she's like, you're above average. And I was like, that's shocking. Anyway, but now I decided, because I'm going to be doing this muscle building phase through the holidays and not focused on any fat loss, I kind of wanted to do a little hurrah before I started that. So I decided to do a 6-week cut. And because it's short, it's actually 5 and a little bit, basically 5. And because I am doing a short one, I was like, I'll do it intense. And I have sort of been suffering a little bit because intense weight loss it's intense. And I'm pleased to say that I have lost 4 pounds, which is almost unheard of for me in 3 weeks. But I have almost like peeled my skin off. There is a feeling in your body when you're hungry and underfed that is very much like anxiety. And so I've been sort of, but now I will say, in my past, I've suffered from severe anxiety and depression. So I'm making sure it's under control. If I have my boyfriend on alert. I'm like, if I get past a certain point where like I don't feel okay, we're gonna end this thing, not the life, the diet. And he's my Sherpa. He's watching out for me. So anyway, but that's what's going on with me right now. So okay, let's get to the questiones. Hey Tina, I'm glad that you're here too. Thank you who said I look good in black. I appreciate that. I put this on because it's pretty lightweight shirt and it's kind of warm in here. Terry said, how did I decide on my calories? So actually I'm trying out an app by Lane Norton called Carbon Diet Coach. So I was like, well, if I'm going to do this little mini cut, let's follow this app's recommendations for an intense experience and see what happens. And thus far, the recommendations are pretty good. However, the calories are insanely low. So, would I put somebody else on this experience? Not without very long discussions about their ability to withstand these conditions. I'm eating under 1,200 calories a day. It's intense. So it's not something I would ever put a client on long-term, or myself, and I'm trying it out. I wasn't even going to mention that I was doing that app until I'd really felt like I'd vetted it properly, but buyer beware. So far it seems to be producing the results that I asked it to produce. But I do think going into using that app, if you're not kind of a macro expert already, I think I would find it challenging. It assumes you know a lot, probably because the guy who wrote it is a bodybuilder. And so it assumes you know a lot about your body, how things work, macros. I think if I didn't have the background that I have, I would feel pretty lost following what it says. Anyway. Catherine said, what is my thought on fasted workouts? Does it really help to burn fat? So Catherine, I will tell you what I know. I'm not an expert. I'm not an exercise physiologist. But apparently from what I've read, and I've read a variety of sources on this, Fasted workouts do in fact burn more fat during the workout and after the workout. But there are also studies that show it doesn't make a big difference over the course of the day. So it kind of depends how you ask the question. So if you ask the question, does a fasted workout burn more fat than a fed workout, something you've eaten before you went into it? The answer is yes, that workout burns more. But when they look at it over the course of the day, there are some studies that say maybe it doesn't make a difference in the sum total of the day. And I only really care about the sum total of the day. That being said, a lot of people really enjoy a fasted workout, feel great with a fasted workout. And then other people don't feel so great. So what I've taken from what I've looked at in terms of all of the evidence that I have looked at, which I will admit is not a comprehensive look, just I've looked at some things. The answer really is, do your workout in the state that makes your workout feel the best for you and makes your day go the best. Do your workout in that state. I would always prefer to do an afternoon workout over a morning workout, because in the morning I'm barely conscious, even when I'm totally awake. And I hate that. I will go for a walk in the morning, but I don't want to lift weights in the morning. I just don't. And I will do them in the afternoon. And so I don't do fasted weightlifting. Also, it does look like if you're going for, if you're weightlifting, you really probably shouldn't be looking for specifically the fat burning of that weightlifting, but in fact, the effect of like how much muscle mass are you able to put on, how much weight are you able to lift, when you look at that in totality. So I think the real answer to almost all these questions is, how does it work for you? If you feel better, function better, enjoy it more to do your workouts fasted, do that. If you don't. I wouldn't eat a really big meal right before a workout because you feel it can be kind of heavy in your stomach, but do what works for you. Stephanie says, have I ever done the beef, butter, bacon, and egg challenge from Dr. Berry? No. I've done carnivore, so I've certainly done something like that. For my body, I do better on lean meats to lose body fat. So I've certainly have had periods of time when I've done more of a high fat carnivore, and it's been great for my gut health. And I think it's awesome. And I think it does work for a lot of people. It does not encourage fat loss in my body. And so I'm in a period of time when I want fat loss still, forever. And so I haven't, and I probably won't, just because I know what works for me, and we all need to know what works for us. But if somebody had autoimmune issues, if they were struggling with gut health, if they still had quite a bit of healing to do, if they were still suffering blood sugar issues, then I would definitely be more into that for those reasons. Absolutely. I, at this point, can very easily eat 50 carbs a day or more and have very stable blood sugars. So I don't feel the need for that for me. I just answer things really honestly. I think the challenge sounds like a great one, though. So Karen asks, how do you reverse diet? Okay. So the best way, I'll explain in a second. So my program, Keto Unstuck, takes everyone through this whole process. So if you're ever like, I would like to work on these things with somebody to help me, Keto Unstuck would be the program you're looking for. And you can go to ku.kimhowerton.com and sign up for the waiting list. I have to say that. I'm required. Okay, but let me tell you what it entails. So a reverse diet, you can think of it when you've been eating too little for too long, that you're in the basement, right? If you were like, how do I force my food intake any lower? You're like, I'd have to get out like a jackhammer and like take out the basement floor, because I'm about as low as I could possibly go without suffering from blackouts and malnutrition. Although you probably are suffering from malnutrition at that point anyway, but intense issues. And so you have to think, how do I get to a place where I can see a little more elevation here? Well, you have to take the stairs. So you can think of that reverse diet as the stairs you take to get out of the basement in terms of your food intake. And so essentially, you would track your macros very accurately. You need to be accurate in this. I'm not saying you have to do this forever, but you're kind of in a scientific process and you have to commit. So you track your macros very accurately for 1 to 2 weeks. And you also track your weight and your measurements very accurately during that period of time. So you're weighing yourself optimally, like every day, unless that causes you mental distress. Okay. This is an experiment and we're going to be experimenters together on it. Right. But if you're like, it makes me insane, then we need to find another option. So then I would say maybe a pair of pants that are tight or something like that. What you're trying to do in that 1 to 2 weeks is not lose weight, but you're trying to eat the way you've been eating. And if you're plateaued, you're not losing or gaining weight, really, right? So you're going to eat the way you've been eating and track everything and figure out what your macros currently are. And that's your basement floor. That's your starting level. And then you're going to add, it can vary depending on the person, but on average, like 5 grams of protein and 5 grams of fat to your daily average for a week. So this is after your 1 to 2 weeks of getting that baseline. And now that's the baseline. And now you're in the reverse. So week 1 of reverse, you're adding some fat and protein. You monitor your weight and your measurements. Now they'll go up a little bit. When you start eating more, you're going to gain a little bit. You're going to gain some bloat. You're going to gain some water in your system. You're going to gain some things in your gut, right? More food. But it shouldn't be a lot. And so you want to set a threshold that maybe like 2 pounds your first week, because the first week or 2 might be the most, or maybe it'll be on week 3, but you might see a little blip. So you want to know, but I kind of set my limit at 5 pounds for the entire reverse. I don't want to gain more than that. It's not all fat. It's water weight, but you'll gain a little bit. So, but you want to keep the brakes on. You don't want to suddenly be like, I have now gained 20 pounds that I have to deal with. You don't want to do that. But you're literally every week just adding a little food. So week 1, you go up 5 grams of fat, or 5 to 7 grams of protein. You check things out. Things seem good. I'm going to add another 5 to 7. Things seem good. Going to add another 5 to 7. So week after week, your daily average of intake is going to go up until you find your ceiling, which is the highest caloric intake you can possibly have without gaining any significant weight. And then you're going to stay there for a while. And that's maintenance. And you're hanging out at your highest maintenance level where you've reached your caloric intake ceiling without, bashing your head through the ceiling. And you're going to hang out there for 3 months, 6 months. And then you're going to work on things that are not diet related. You're going to work on your sleep. You're going to work on meditating. You're going to work on, and you can be doing this as you're reversing, but you're going to really focus on what are all the factors that put me in the best health. If you're not already exercising, you'll start exercising. If you're not already, and by exercising, I don't really mean like a lot of cardio. I mean, go for walks in the evening, enjoy your evening, enjoy your day, move your body, get more steps in. I don't mean like hitting the treadmill for hours on end. That's not actually that helpful in terms of, fat loss anyway. And then start lifting some weights or doing some resistance training, work on things that aren't about dieting. And then when you feel ready, 3-6 months later, you can start another cut. And in that, you're coming down the stairs. And we can talk about that experience as well. But that's basically a reverse. Let's see. Kim, it's my name too. You'd think I could say it, right? Kim says, what do I think about weightlifting? I think weightlifting is awesome. I think everyone should do weightlifting. No matter your age, you're never too old. You don't have to do a scary thing. You don't have to make it intense or insane, but it is the best thing you can do for your health long-term. People who end up needing to go into nursing homes for the most part don't go in for any crazy medical reason. They end up being unable to take care of themselves because they cannot lift their own body weight, because they cannot lift themselves out of a chair or off the sofa, or if they tripped, they couldn't get themselves off the floor. That has to do with loss of lean body mass. And so lifting weights is gonna be the thing. Resistance training. It could literally be just yourself, lifting yourself out of your chair. You can use your own body as the weight. You don't have to, it doesn't have to look like anything you think it has to look like. But resistance training is the key to long and happy lives. And so it also is the key to eating more, which I also like that concept because I like to eat. So I think it's the best thing we can do for ourselves. And we can do it in a way that works for our schedule, our lifestyle. You can do it at home. You can do it with bands. You can do it with body weight exercises. But starting to do some resistance training / weightlifting, I think honestly is the best thing any of us could do. It is probably equal in importance to, eating well is very important, but whether or not you lose the last 10 pounds is not actually that important to your ultimate health. Having a strong body is. So there you go. It jumped. Suzanne says, I can only go under 1,200 calories on my protein-sparing modified fast days 3 times a week. Yeah, it's been an intense experience, Suzanne. I'm using it as a meditation. April, I have been struggling to get back. By the way, I'm not recommending this low in intake for anyone. I'm just telling, I don't want to be like, and then I'm lost weight eating 1,800 calories a day. And why can't you? Right? I'm just being honest about my life. There you go. April, I have been struggling to get back to keto. I now have a new goal and motivation. I'm heavy with a lot of weight to lose. Well, I'm glad you're back. How much would a reasonable amount, my tongue got away from me. How much would a reasonable amount to lose over the next 6 months? Aiming for a significant loss, but not sure what's realistic. Okay. So, when we are very heavy, we can lose at a faster rate. And so I'm not going to say anything's wrong if you're losing at a faster rate than this initially, because when you first start carnivore, when you first start keto, a lot of times you drop a lot of water weight. But I really aim for a 0.5%. If it's a long-term weight loss experience, 0.5% a week. That's like a good week. So that means if I weigh 200 pounds, we'll go with a whole number that's easier. Up 1% of that would be 2 pounds. 0.5% of that would be 1 pound. So I would be overjoyed to see somebody at 200 pounds losing a pound a week. That would be an appropriate and encouraging rate of loss. Most people are shocked to hear me say such things because they envision that they should be losing 10 pounds or something a day or a week or whatever. That is not necessarily the best idea. Now, when we are significantly overweight, our body, because of that extra body fat, is more protective of things like our lean mass. So it's possible to maybe lose 1 to 1.5% a week for a while and not suffer ill consequences from that. But the leaner you get, the lower your weight goes, the more negative repercussions there can be from too rapid a weight loss, which can include loss of lean body mass. And then there's a rebound effect. So your kind of your set rate, your metabolic rate can be overly adaptive. And then you're going to struggle to both continue to lose weight and to keep the weight off if you stop. So I always want people to lose at a reasonable pace, which is around 0.5% a week. That is my advice. I know I'm like the party pooper. Carol says, will I be doing any pre-holiday programs this year? Yes, Nisha and I are going to do one, but we haven't announced it yet, so I didn't say that. Tracy says, Ben Bickman says fasted exercises increases insulin sensitivity. It very well might for that experience. Yes. Kim says it. So there is a specific weightlifting program. I'm so interested, but when I walk in the gym, I feel lost. I hear you. Sorry, I'm getting weird lights on me from the window. Totally hear you. And if you can afford it, I would say sign up with a trainer at your gym for maybe 2 sessions to sort of set you up with a routine. If you can't, there are some great YouTube channels. I really like a YouTube channel called Girls Gone Strong. They also have a channel called Moms Gone Strong. I don't know the difference between the 2 channels. I see moms on both channels. But you can go and look at that. And then Crystal Sykes, who is Lady Savage, who is Robert Sykes's wife, has an online program as well and does online coaching. So I would check her out. Mel says, is there a resource about reverse dieting? There are some resources in the bodybuilding world about reverse dieting, but they tend to suggest a lot of carbs. And so I don't really work those. So I've kind of adopted my own methodology, and I do have a course on it. It's called Keto Unstuck. And I was not going to offer it again this winter, but I thought I might do like a small group coaching around it. So if you're interested, just private message me. And if I open it up, I'll let you know. I'm definitely doing one in January. Angie said, do I feel like the standard keto diet doesn't work for you any longer? Well, that gets right to the point, doesn't it, Angie? Yeah, I still teach keto. I still support keto. I'm still in ketosis. So, I mean, I guess in that way, keto is working for me. The way that I currently eat, I am in ketosis. But the sort of traditional, very high fat approach, which was great for me at the beginning. Absolutely. Like that was the thing that allowed me to break free of the prison of food that I was in before I started it. I could never have done low fat. It was not workable for me. I could not calorie restrict. I would binge. So high fat keto was the thing that unlocked health for me. And so I love it, support it, talk about it, encourage it. And then there was a point at which out of the box, like off the shelf, out of the box keto that people were talking about doing, which was, make sure your fat's pretty high, moderate protein, wasn't working for me. And I was like, what am I committed to? Am I committed to being able to say that I eat high fat and moderate protein? Or am I committed to my health and my health journey? And I had to say, I'm committed to that. And I'm going on this journey. And so what works better for me now is what I would call probably a whole real foods diet that is high in protein and is sufficient in fat. I'm not low fat in any way. But I eat more vegetables than I used to. I'm going to try and get out of the weird light. I eat more vegetables than I used to on keto. I eat fat, absolutely. But when I'm trying to lose weight, I eat less fat. So I titrate pretty much my protein's always high. So I eat between 130 and 160 grams of protein. I'm 5'9". And then my carbs are always somewhere between 20 and 50, like if I have a lot of cauliflower or, and I count total carbs. So if I have something with erythritol in it, that's going to add like 10 or 15 grams of carbs to my carb total. Right. And so I count total carbs. So my total carbs might be 50, sometimes even 60 if it's like a special occasion and there's a lot of erythritol going on. But then my fat, when I'm in times I'm not trying to lose weight, will be pretty high. It might be 90 grams. And then when I'm trying to lose weight, it might be 50 grams. So that goes up and down the most. So Angie, I guess my point is we all have to find the path that works for our fat loss the best. At this point, I'm almost at 100 pounds down. And the first 60% of that was very traditional keto. And then since then, it's moved around in the low carb arena. Roxanne says, I'm looking slimmer. Thank you. Appreciate that. It's very exciting to me when I have less than 2 chins. I eat a lot of flank steak. I love flank steak. I still love red meat a lot. And it's weird to me, you guys. It's weird to me because I love a good ribeye. And then the other day I had both ribeye and flank steak in my house, and I really wanted the flank steak. I was like, who am I? I don't even know who I am anymore. Anna says, I broke a 4-month stall by doing the beef, salt, and water challenge for September. Congratulations. That is awesome. Where am I going? Sorry, sometimes the questions jump around and then I have to find them. Tracy, wow, me and names today. I've been tracking protein consistently, only getting about 90 grams out of the 125 I'm supposed to get. How can I increase it without bars or shakes? Great, because I think we should get at least most of our protein from whole foods, not from bars and shakes. So you're on the right track. Leaner meats have more protein per ounce, right? So like 4 ounces of flank steak is going to have like 26 grams of protein, whereas 4 ounces of ribeye is only going to have like 21, right? So there's a difference. You get a little more. But I can tell you essentially what I ate today, which was this morning I had cottage cheese and yogurt. That got me about 40 grams of protein this morning for my first meal. At lunch, I had some sirloin. I got some pre-cooked sirloin at Trader Joe's. It was delicious. It's in a little box. I have it up on my Instagram if you want to see what it is. And I put that on some Egg Life wraps with a little bit of mustard and a little lettuce, and I had a few of those. And then I got like 40 grams of protein at my lunch. And then I haven't had dinner yet, but I'm going to be having, what am I having? I have something in the oven. What is in the oven? I have a roast in the oven. That's going to be quite a bit of meat, and I'm going to have that, and that'll be probably, and then I'm going to have some dessert, which either I think I'm out of the cheesecake. I made a pumpkin cheesecake. I have my protein cheesecake recipe up on YouTube and Facebook. I'm out of that. So I think I'm going to make, I can't keep track. I made today some pumpkin things that are ugly, but they're very tasty. I'm going to have one of those, and those have like 20 grams of protein in them. So I'll have that. So I'll end up the day with plenty of protein by the end of it. I'm happy to do that. So I just plan my meals in advance around the protein, because for me, it's like, it's all about getting the protein right first, and then everything else will follow. It's very easy for me to get more fat. I just added a little butter. Or it's very easy to get more carbs. Not that we need to get more carbs, but I'll add some vegetables. But the protein is like the baseline that I set my meals up around. Hey, Danielle, Monroe County. I don't even know where Monroe County is. You're a little bit north of me. Hey. Kathy says, I have osteoporosis and am concerned about the amount of vitamin A in liver. Okay. I don't necessarily think everyone needs to eat liver. I don't know that it's a problem, but if it's something you don't want to do, there's more than one way to skin a cat, and they don't all involve eating liver. All right, Gina, from October to the new year, I consider my maintenance period with the holidays and birthdays. Yeah, absolutely. Me too. I'm going to be in maintenance during that time too. If I don't gain, I consider it a win. Absolutely. Selena says, if we are just trying to lose the last 10 to 15 pounds, what percentage loss would that look like a week? So yeah, you're definitely in the 0.5% camp, in my opinion, to do it the right way. So that would be, Selena, I'm just going to make up a weight for you. I don't know what you weigh. So, but if you're trying to lose 10 to 15 pounds, I'm going to guess you weigh 150 pounds. I don't know how tall you are. I'm just coming up with a number. I'm guessing you're not very tall by that number. So if you're 150 pounds, that would be, so 150, 0.5%, 10% of 150 would be, wow, 1% of 150 would be 1.5. So half of that would be 0.75. So 0.75 pounds a week would be what I would consider the most you'd want to aim for in terms of fat loss. Now, one week it might be 1 pound, and the next week it might be 0.5 pound. Like, it doesn't work consistently usually, but that would be what I would recommend for somebody in their last 10 to 15 pounds. Slow and steady wins the race. Terry says, when you were starting out keto for weight loss, what method did I do to figure out calories when you focused on calories? So remember that thing I explained in the call a little while ago about tracking your current macros? When you track those, you'll be able to figure out your current calories. So, and by figuring out your current calories, you'll be able to know what you're able to currently eat without gaining or losing weight, if you're not gaining or losing weight. And so from there, you can decide what your next right move is. So there are places online where you can go to online calculators and it can tell you what a average person of your size and shape should be able to eat. I'm using a lot of quotes on that, but it's the most accurate way, and the way that a good coach will always tell you to go, is to track your intake and then see what your body is responding to that intake and then adjust from there. So Terry, if you want to figure out what your caloric intake should look like, what I would say is look at what your actions have been, look at what your macros have been, and then evaluate the reaction, the what's happened out of those macros. And one thing I would say though is, if you're like, I want to lose more weight, I did my macros, I've been eating 1,200 calories a day, and I would like to lose weight. And I would say, well, you would then want to, subtract somewhere between 10 and 25% of your caloric intake from that number. Now you're like eating a crazy low amount of calories that I wouldn't recommend. And so then you have to evaluate, what do you have to do? And then that's the situation in which I would say, if your caloric intake is in the basement, you need to do a reverse diet to try and get out of the basement before you jump out a window with a parachute. Catherine, is my 1,200 calorie experiment a protein sparing modified fast? No, it is not. It is not a protein sparing modified fast. It is not. It is just a low carb, high protein approach that is not a protein sparing modified fast, because that's not what it is. And is it a keto module? I don't know what you mean by module, but I'm in ketosis, but I would say it's more just a low carb diet that I've developed that works for my body. So that's what I do. I see. Again, I'm trying to jump around a little bit because these questions jump on me. Diana says, I've been ketovore for this is iced coffee, by the way, people asked. It's got almond milk in. I've been ketovore for 2 years, extremely moody with mood swings. Is this common? It kind of depends. I did a podcast with Dr. Georgia Ede, who's a psychiatrist, and we talked quite a bit actually about ketovore, carnivore, keto, and anxiety and mood swings. So you might want to check that out. Keto Life Support Podcast. It's on iTunes and all those places. But if you've been, so there is some increased anxiety for some people when they're transitioning. You've already transitioned, obviously, at 2 years. So then the question I would often say is, I would be curious if you're maybe under eating, or if you might have some specific nutrient deficiencies that need to be addressed. And so that would be kind of more of a teasing those situations apart. You say, I'm not sure I can keep going. It's so boring now. So I would say, if the way you're currently eating feels like it's not working for you, then I would set up an experiment, which would look like, for the next 30 days, I'm going to XYZ. It doesn't have to be, not a big change, but change something, right? If you're like ketovore, what are you finding boring? Do you want more vegetables? Okay, for the next 30 days, I'm going to increase my vegetables up to 30 grams of total carbs and see how that goes, right? So take on a change as an experiment, evaluate the experiment, see how it goes. Bitsy says, what do I consider sufficient in fat? It's going to vary from person to person. So certainly I would never drop below about 0.3 grams per pound of reference body weight on any diet, keto, not keto. Certainly on keto, so people will hear me say something like that and get out of it. Everyone drop their fat to that. No, I'm just saying, like, as an absolute, I just don't think people should go below that, even on a carb included diet. We have fat soluble vitamins. There are things we need. And so, but for me, that means I eat, make sure I'm getting in like 40 grams of fat, I think. And that's still pretty low. So what I tend to do is, I figure out what my intake needs to be. So this is what I do for me, and this can work for everybody. I figure out what my intake needs to be based on what I talked about. You do that, get your baseline, see where your caloric intake is, decide what you want to do. Do you want to maintain? Do you want to gain? Do you want to reverse? What are you looking to accomplish? You figure out the new caloric intake for that. So if you're wanting to see more body fat, you're going to eat less, somewhere between 10 and 25% less. But that's like a total number. So what's my caloric intake now? Then I reduce the caloric intake. Then I figure out how much protein I need, which generally speaking is between 0.75 and 1 gram per pound of reference body weight. So you can look at that as goal weight. You can look at that as your number of inches above 5 feet times 5. So if you're 5'9", 9 times 5, 45, add 100 to it, 145. So if you're 5 feet, it's 100, right? So you can use any of those methods for reference body weight or goal or target weight. And so first I figure out the protein, which is 0.75 to 1 gram of that number. And then the remaining calories I divide between carbs and fat. Now, for a ketogenic diet, you're going to set that limit on the carb side between either 20 total, 30 total, depends on how, your carb tolerance is and how much you work out. And then the remainder goes to fat. So that's how I work out my macros. Yeah, Jen, I'm not doing a protein sparing modified fast, but I am doing a high protein approach. Protein sparing modified fast is a very specific thing, and it's not what I'm doing. Terry said, I tried eating 93% lean beef for a few weeks and got horribly constipated, went back to 80-20, and it's all good. So weird. I hate 83% ground meat. Like I can do it in like a lasagna or something like that, but I don't think it's very good. I prefer a lean steak over lean ground beef. Although I I do 85 just fine, but I don't like anything less than that. You're welcome, Terry. Okay, Selena says 5'1" and I weigh 160. Okay, so yeah, close. I was giving numbers for 150. You can just add a fraction to it. But yeah, I would say if you want to lose, I would say that for you, I would think a good rate of loss would be somewhere between 1/2 and 3/4 pound a week on average would be what I would consider good if I were in your shoes and be happy about. The reason I know it's not fancy, it's not sparkly, people want to lose a lot more, a lot faster than that. I just think slower is more sustainable. You don't have to go as extreme, and it'll be easier to manage your weight moving forward once you get there. You'll also maintain more lean body mass or have be more likely to maintain more lean body mass than if you cut extremely. When you do extreme cutting, you tend to be more likely to lose that. Shari said, do I track macros daily? I'm ketovore and I rarely count. I do. It makes me happy to track. I think if you're doing well, if you're not tracking and you're doing well, you keep doing you. There is not only one way to do this right. So go right ahead and keep doing that. If you want a change from what you're seeing, I find tracking helpful because then you have accurate data to figure out what to manipulate. Michelle says she's been doing the yogurt and cottage cheese. I love it. Thanks for sharing that. I love that stuff. I don't know why. And Tracy says, it seems I need dessert. Try my cheesecake. It is delicious. I think it's really good. Michelle says, does a person have to exercise to lose? When I was going to the gym, I was dropping weight like crazy. Now that I'm not going, I'm having a hard time. Well, that would perhaps give you some information that for your body, for whatever reason, exercise was something that was working for you. But like I can tell you, in the population, on average, in general, no, exercise, certainly not cardio type exercise, is not required for weight loss. That being said, you do have some evidence that would indicate that it worked for you. So there you go. So I had lost 50 pounds. I stopped going to the gym during COVID, gained about 20. I'm back on track. Does one have to exercise to actually lose? No, you don't. I mean, I don't know if you do, but a person doesn't. I lost most of my weight not really exercising. Now, I do think that you need to be active. You need to be getting steps in. You need to be going for walks if you like walks, or going for bike rides if you like them, being active. But it doesn't have to look like huffing and puffing on the turn on a light. It doesn't have to look like huffing and puffing on, a cardio machine. That has diminishing returns. In fact, when they've studied that kind of thing, the body adapts to that kind of exercise. So like the first week you go in and you do this exercise of like Stairmaster, you'll burn X calories. But by week 10, you're burning hardly any, because your body compensates and learns to get better at something. And then they find over the course of the whole day, we also subconsciously compensate. So if we did a hard workout, we move less the rest of the day. So again, I'm saying this is just average. Some people are different. On average, we tend to make up for the exercise we do. And so it doesn't contribute significantly to fat loss for a lot of us. But getting your step count high can be a great way to do it, because the body does not tend to compensate for things like just activity rather than just hardcore exercise. Lucy asks, what do I think of dark chocolate for health? I'm trying to have a treat that might be a positive contribution. I can't have popular sweeteners. I can do monk fruit. I mean, quite honestly, if you're doing a square of 90% chocolate, there's very little sugar in that chocolate. And so I personally would not be very concerned about it. It's different if you're talking about eating an entire chocolate bar. But if you're talking about eating a small piece of 90% chocolate, even though you are having a little sugar in that, it's not all that much more sugar than if you ate a couple of raspberries or something, So if it works for you, I'm not really against that. Kim asked, how do I cook my flank steak? I actually recorded a video of myself cooking my flank steak the other day, because I'm like, always get this question. I have to put it up. But I trim the flank steak so it'll fit in my pan, because usually my flank steak is bigger than my pan. And then I salt it with onion and garlic salt, season it with that. I heat a pan very, very hot on my stove, and put a little bit of oil in it. And then I put the steak down for about 3 minutes, and then I flip it the other side for 3 minutes. I want it to be browned, right? I don't want it to be sickly colored. You want a nice browning on that. And then if it's not super thick, that's probably enough to cook it for me. But I'll get out my little meat thermometer and check it. And if it's 115, to me, it is done. The trick to good flank steak, or really good lean meat of any kind, is rare. If you overcook it, it is not so good. Then you want to cut it on the diagonal. So, when it's got like stripes in it, you want to cut it on the diagonal. I'll put the video up this week. You can see how I do it. It's not a very thrilling video, but it kind of goes over it. And I think that's delicious. Okay, Michelle says she's walking at work. Great. Keep your body active. Catherine says, was trying to eliminate my gastro problems. Found out I was lactose intolerant. Added lactase. Doing better. Now finding anything with erythritol is giving me an issue. I missed a question. Sorry. Looking for better sweetener options. Got it. So the sweeteners, let's talk about sweeteners. So there's erythritol. I'm going to list them and then we'll go into detail. There's erythritol, there's xylitol, there's monk fruit, which is also called lohanguo. That's the plant it comes from. There's stevia. There's like artificial sweeteners like sucralose and those kind of things, but you can't really bake with those things. So I'm not going to include those in what we're talking about. But the sort of keto sweeteners that people refer to, there's erythritol, xylitol. There's something called Boca Sweet, which is made from the kombucha squash, very similar to erythritol. Or there's allulose. Yeah, that's pretty much the list. Xylitol, erythritol, allulose, monk fruit, and each time I say these, I forget one of the ones I'm saying. Anyway, and they all can have different effects on people, So it's not unusual to have a little bit of gut distress from erythritol for some people, and then other people, they don't have any. And so it's a challenge. And what I would just say is what works for you might not work for somebody else, and what works for somebody else might not work for you. And so if finding a sweetener that works for you is important to you, you just kind of have to try them and see which one works best for you. The thing I would like to caution people about is any powdered or granular monk fruit sweetener you get is 95% erythritol, because true monk fruit is so intensely sweet that you can't get it in a pure powdered form without it being almost impossible to use. Now, you can get it in liquid form because they can add water to it. So I put in my coffee monk fruit sweetener drops, and that are just monk fruit plus water. Lakanto, where everyone is like, I use monk fruit sweetener, it's Lakanto. It's like 95% erythritol. So if you can't do erythritol, don't do that one. And if you are doing that one and you're like, that one doesn't bother me, the problem is not erythritol, because you, my friend, are eating erythritol. So do what works for you, but you're kind of going to have to try them. Stevia and I do have some powdered monk fruit in my cabinet that has been sitting there for like 4 years now because it is so strong. It's like this orange powder that I have yet to use it in a recipe effectively because it's so strong. Anyway, so you kind of have to see what works for you. And the simpler, the fewer ingredients, probably the better. Somebody said I'm frozen. Well, I'll keep talking because I can't do anything about it. Jen says, I find eating a low FODMAP, low carb diet works well for me. Yeah. And so for some people who have stomach issues, just no sweetener is going to really work all that well, which is unfortunate, but true. And then you always want to watch out for additives. So a lot of sweeteners, especially the cheaper ones, will add things like maltodextrin or fillers that you don't want to be eating probably. So read the ingredients carefully, try them out, see what works for you. If you haven't tried it, try Boca Sweet. It's actually very tasty and it's good. You also might want to try allulose because that is basically sugar, like it's a rare sugar. That might not be an issue. So try the things you haven't had. I really wish there was a company that would send you like a sample of each one of the sweeteners. So you could like try them all without spending $50 million on buying bags of sweetener that you can't use. That would be nice if somebody did that. All right. All right, but that's the way it goes. And then the other thing I like to mention about stevia, which I really like stevia, and there's something called stevia glycerite that I use a lot. I learned this one from Maria Emmerich. She put it in a recipe, and I was like, what is that? So I use a couple drops of stevia glycerite and all sorts of things, and it's a great sweetener. It's stevia plus glycerin, so it's a little thicker, and it's not bitter like most stevia. But the thing I would like to caution you about is stevia is now I've forgotten what it is. It is a type of plant that is related to a type of plant that gives people hay fever. I'm sure I will remember right after the call what type of plant that is. But anyway, so some people are actually ragweed. It's a ragweed relative. And so a lot of people are allergic to ragweed. And if you're somebody that gets seasonal allergies in the spring, you are probably allergic to ragweed. And so if you notice after you use stevia, you have allergy-like symptoms, you might be having not like a toxic allergic reaction, but like a seasonal allergy kind of reaction from your stevia. So just a heads up that can happen. Hold on. I had a question. Helene says, have I tried the carbonate bread? No, I haven't even seen it. Thanks, Lisa. I remembered it after I was done. Catherine asks, what are my current macros? Okay, so this is where I'm always like a little bit cautious to tell people what I'm doing, because don't copy me. You're not me in my body with the experience that I have. But right now I'm eating about 135 grams of protein, about 50 grams, no, 40, 48. I can't remember the exact numbers, like 48-ish grams of fat and like 47 grams of carbs. And that includes things, I'll say again, like erythritol and allulose and things like that, that I do use. So if I were coming up with like net carbs, which I don't play the net carb game, but if I was coming up with net carbs, it would probably be around 25. But I do total carbs. So counting total carbs, that's about what I've got. So that's what I'm eating right now. But in about 3 weeks, I will be eating more like 135 to 150 grams of protein, 50-ish grams of carbs, about the same. And then the thing that will be going up from there will be my fat, which will be maybe 90 grams, and I'll work my way there, but eventually we'll get like 90 to 100 grams of fat. So I am categorically 1,000% against people being low calorie for long periods of time. It is a way to ensure you are not only miserable, but also unsuccessful in your life. So please do not hear me saying I'm doing an intense low calorie experiment right now and decide that that means that you should do it for long periods of time. I'm doing this for 5 weeks, not 5 months, right? Just a reminder that your health matters, and don't do crazy experiments unless you're prepared for the consequences. So I just have to say that I try to be really honest about what's going on with me, what I'm doing, what's happening. And at the same time, I want to educate you that don't copy me. Okay, because we are in different circumstances. Now, does that mean that some of you might not benefit from an experience like I'm doing? Absolutely not. Some of you may absolutely benefit from that, but make sure you know the parameters. It's like, if you're not a stunt driver, don't drive off the cliff. Okay, don't drive off the cliff without safety gear. Deb says, what do I consider as low calorie? I would probably say that, this is a vast generalization, but on a general level, if you looked at your body weight and you multiply it by 10, so if you were 150 pounds and you were eating less than 1,500 calories on the regular, I would consider you pretty low calorie. That's a generalization though, but that's the easiest one I can think of on the spot here. So what low calorie looks like is going to vary from person to person, but I think it's really important for all of us to always push the envelope of eating more, not less, except for short controlled bursts where we might eat less. When I am doing keto, not experimenting, what is a quick example of my daily menu? Well, I can tell you when I started keto, what I would often eat was I would eat 2 times a day at that point. And it would be things like bacon and eggs and steak and bunless burgers and pickles and maybe lettuce wraps and coffee with cream. So I would eat those kinds of foods a lot when I first started. And so that would be an example of what I would say some people might be doing that would work, that would work for them. So it's mostly about figuring out your hunger, figuring out what's going to feel satisfying to you, and then sticking to those kind of macros. So, but I would say like 90% of my diet was probably one meal was like a bunless burger with a pickle and lettuce wrap. And maybe I'd make some like keto Thousand Island for it. And then my other meal would be like a ribeye steak and maybe some broccoli with butter. That's an example of maybe what I would eat in a day. And a lot of iced coffee. Amy asked, why are some, that has remained constant. I put different things in my iced coffee now, but I still have iced coffee a lot. Amy H asked, why are some keto forums so against peanuts? Okay, so peanuts are a legume. And a lot of keto forums there's sort of a crossover between paleo and keto. And paleo, although it's changing a little bit, used to be very, very, very anti-legume. And so because they're anti-legume, they're also then in these keto forums going to be anti-legume there. And so there's sort of this clean keto, which also follows paleo rules. So a lot of keto forums are like, it's like if you took all the paleo rules that also worked for keto in terms of carbs, then that's what their rules tend to be. Sort of this clean keto, which is paleo plus keto. Keto. I don't know. Anyway, and so that's why they're against peanuts. The reason that paleo people are against peanuts is one, they're categorically against legumes because they feel that legumes are very high in lectins and they think lectins are problematic for health. And that may very well be true, especially for autoimmune issues. And then the second reason is that specifically peanuts, the way they're stored, can often have grown mold at some point, and then they get ground up into peanut butter, or you eat the peanuts and you don't know they've had mold problems, but you might be ingesting mold. And for a lot of people that get illnesses, especially autoimmune illnesses, there's a thought that there's some contribution from mold. So that is probably why they're against peanuts. Whether they work for you or not is a separate question. I try not to be too dogmatic about anything, but those are some reasons that people might think peanuts might not be a good idea. Sharon says, what can you do to prevent hair loss? Well, it depends what the cause of hair loss is. So I have really thin hair. You can kind of see some of my scalp up here from being undiagnosed hypothyroidism for 20 years. And so my hair is much thicker now than it was for decades. Going keto and then high protein, low carb, actually going high protein, low carb. So when I started increasing my protein more, definitely helped my hair growth. So getting plenty of protein, making sure you're getting all the electrolytes, all your magnesium, making sure your B vitamins are good, making sure you don't have any nutrient deficiencies. All those things will help with your hair as much as possible. Then there's this other factor, which is just rapid weight loss is seen by the body as stress. I know you're happy about it, but your body thinks you're under attack. And so that will cause your body to deprioritize the next growth of hair, the next cycle of hair growth, because hair grows in like about a 3-month cycle. So if you're losing a lot of weight, that one's temporary. Your hair will grow back when you stop losing so much weight. If it's not because of the weight loss, then the aforementioned issues with protein and or micronutrient deficiencies would be what I would look at. And then there's just some hormonal things, right? So if as my mom has gotten older, I've seen her lose more and more hair. So I'm curious if that's going to be what's going to happen to me as well. And so you kind of have to know about those things. And so if you are in an age bracket where it might be a good idea to look at some bioidentical hormones, that can be very helpful. When your estrogen goes low, when your progesterone goes low, especially, that can speed up hair loss. So you want to look at those things as well. By the way, I'm not a doctor and nothing I say should be taken as medical advice. I am just a woman who doesn't want to lose all her hair one day and has about every health problem that you could think of. I have, well, they're not active anymore, but in my life, I've suffered from PCOS, hypothyroidism, IBS. I've had multiple surgeries, and my first one at 5. And I also have depression and what am I missing? If there is a health problem, I have had it pretty much. Migraines, and I was significantly overweight. So pretty much all those things I've dealt with. So I just have a lot of patient experience. Okay, we're going to wrap this up in a second. Kevin says, I eat a lot of keto cheesecake. Any issue with cream cheese? If it's working for you, Kevin, I don't think I have an issue with cream cheese. If you're finding your weight loss is stalled and or you've got stomach upset and or you don't feel well and or your skin's breaking out, like anything where you're like, my system doesn't like something, then I might look at maybe the dairy being an issue. But if things are going well for you, I wish you well with your cheesecake. I love cheesecake. All right, guys. Have a good night. Take care. Be well. I'll see you next week. I can never turn this thing off, so please bear with me while I look confused for a second, and I'll see you next week.